Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing the major sign your ex is still struggling without you during no contact. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. Check out my socials for extra content. The links are in the description. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing the major sign your ex is still struggling without you during no contact. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you will be looking for signs that they might be regretting their decision. In today's podcast, I'll be discussing 3 major signs that your ex is still struggling during no contact. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is erratic and extreme behaviour. So if you've been dumped, you might be looking on at your ex from afar. Maybe you still view their social media, even though that is something I highly suggest you try not do, because at best it is going to confuse you, and at worst it is going to break your heart over and over again. But for those of you who do still decide to check your ex's social media, or maybe you have friends or family who tell you about your ex's social media, or maybe you just hear about your ex in other ways, if you find out that your ex-dumper is behaving in an erratic or extreme way, this could be a sign that they're actually struggling without you during no contact. Now, the reason this might be the case is because if somebody's behaving in an erratic way, if they're behaving in ways which you really didn't expect from them, it can sometimes be connected to trying to take your mind off a bigger issue. And of course, the bigger issue right now is your breakup and going through no contact, the fact they are no longer with you. Now, even though they ended the relationship, even though it was their choice, they could have had no idea exactly how they would feel once they took action. And if you implemented my version of the no contact rule, they didn't know that you would behave in the way that I suggest. They would have probably had their own idea about what you might do. And even then, they still won't know how they will react. They will never know how they will feel until they're out in the field and actually feeling what is happening. So what exactly do I mean by erratic and extreme behaviour? Well, this could be a whole range of things, including mood. Maybe you hear that your ex is ecstatic about something, really over the moon, really happy, really excited, feeling like they're on top of the world. And then you see a social media post only a week later where it feels like everything is bad, low and crashing down. Maybe, for instance, you hear from a friend of a friend that your ex is going on an adventure, a trip, a vacation, which seems somewhat out of the blue. Why would they be doing this now? Now, this sounds kind of random. And then you find out not too long afterwards that it was a really bad trip and experience, and now they just seem to be shutting themselves away from the world, and you know this because of a status they've put online. These types of erratic and differing behaviours can be a sign that they're struggling, can be a sign that they're trying to mask a pain, and the most obvious pain it could be is going through no contact with you, their dumpee, not contacting them unless they were to contact you first. Now, it is true that dumpers will typically enter what I refer to as the single honeymoon period post-breakup, a period of time where they will do things that they didn't feel they could do within the relationship. So it's not totally out of context to consider that maybe they would go travelling, for instance. That is an example of what some dumpers might do post-breakup. But it's the mood that they portray during this time and potential up and down behaviour, whether it is on the trip, whether it is after the trip, whether it is during, before, whatever it may be. And of course, it doesn't have to connect with a trip. That is just one example. Appearance is something else. Maybe your ex, for instance, always had long hair. Now suddenly they have short hair. Okay, you're thinking, well, that's kind of random. I didn't expect that. Maybe they just always wanted short hair and they didn't feel they could within the relationship because I liked long hair. And now they've done that. Now that could be seen as somebody going through the single honeymoon period, but then The next thing you know, they're wearing a hat, and you're told that is the case because they don't like their short hair. That would be an example of where somebody had long hair, gone short hair, now they're wearing a hat because they don't like their hair right now. That is that kind of erratic behaviour I'm talking about. Extremes, from one end to the other, happy and then sad, long hair, short hair, no tattoos, lots of tattoos, then regretting having tattoos. You see what I'm saying? Whether this is connected to mood, appearance, experiences, it could be their job. Maybe they had a steady job, then all of a sudden you hear that they've left this job, but it's not to move to a new job, they've just quit their job. They're thinking of what to do next on the fly. Since they've quit their job, they're starting to consider what to do. That's not normally the best course of action. Most people will not quit a job until they have a new job lined up or a business that they feel comfortable that they can sustain themselves with. So if you hear that your ex-dumper is moving from job to job or job to nothing, that can be another sign. Now you might be thinking, well, why are they going through this pain? Surely they knew what was going to be coming. This was their choice. But like I said, they never expected you to implement my version of the no contact rule. And additionally, even if they somewhat thought they would know your next move, they definitely can't predict how they would feel if and when you live your life the way that I suggest. They won't know how they're going to feel until it happens. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast. Please like this video if you're watching on YouTube, and if you have the new hype feature, please hype this video as well. If you like my content, subscribe to the channel to keep updated. And point number 2 is rebound relationships. Now, if you've been dumped, one of the worst things you can find out is that your ex-dumper is in a new relationship. You just can't believe it. I was dumped 1 minute, and then all of a sudden, it sounds like that they're in a new relationship already. I've heard that they're dating someone new. Were they dating this person when we were actually still together? Was I actually cheated on? All of these horrible thoughts will go through your mind. But the good news, dumpees, is that if your ex-dumper jumps into a new relationship fairly soon after your breakup, it could actually be a sign that they're struggling without you. Now, you might be very confused how this could connect, but most dumpers who get into relationships soon after a breakup are doing so because they miss certain elements of their prior relationship. Now, you might consider this and think, well, why don't they just come back to me? Well, you have to understand, they have pride. You have to understand they're thinking to themselves, well, that didn't seem to work for a certain reason, so I'm going to try this with somebody new. And your ex-dumper is going to have a mindset which can be just as confused as you as a dumpee. So it doesn't always have to make sense. The point is, a dumper will often move into a new relationship at very, very fast speed if that is what they select to do. Things within this new relationship will go quickly, moving from getting to know one another very quickly into other moments, such as going on a holiday or vacation, maybe even moving in together, perhaps even getting engaged. All of these things are connected with a dumper missing what they had with a dumpee. Now, you might not like to think this, your ex doing these things with other people, but just consider it. They're trying to mask the pain of missing on experiences that they had with you. And since they haven't actually bothered to get to know this person properly before they've rushed the relationship, the likelihood is that when that eventually happens, they won't be compatible anyway. It's very difficult to find a long-term compatible partner. So the likelihood of them going from one long-term compatible person with you to a new long-term compatible person so suddenly, so quickly, almost the next person they met, what are the odds of that being the case? Well, it's very, very unlikely. And therefore, this relationship, once it actually catches up with where they're at, meaning when they actually get to know each other, they're getting to know each other on the job, they're getting to know each other during the relationship rather than before it became serious. When they get to know each other, this is where things will likely fall apart. And if you have lived your life the right way, dumpees, if you behaved in a way which is attractive, if and when your ex-dumper's new relationship ends, you will be in prime position to be in their thoughts and quite possibly them reaching out to want to reconnect with you. And this is why it's so important, dumpees, to live your life the right way. And as I was just suggesting there, becoming an attractive person. Because if you don't do this, if you're not an attractive individual, then if and when your ex-dumper becomes open to considering new options. Maybe they've been single all the while. Maybe, like I've just been talking about, they've actually got into a rebound relationship. That connection's ended. They're now free, they're single, they're considering new options. If you're behaving in an attractive way, you can become in their mindset once more. But if you're not behaving in an attractive way, you absolutely won't be. You won't be on their mind, you won't be on their thoughts. If you are, it won't be for a good reason, and you won't get that second opportunity. So even if your ex-dumper is dating someone new, it's vital, dumpees, that you live your life the right way, become an attractive individual, and become someone that if and when your ex-dumper becomes single again, they consider. Now, it doesn't mean that you should be waiting around for them. Absolutely not. I suggest you live your life for you. And if you don't get your ex back, you can find someone even better. But it's always great to have options. And if your ex ever does reach out to you and gives you that option of reconnecting, well, then that's down to you. And you have the power. And that is what we want. We want options, we want choice. And to do that, you need to live your life the right way. Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. Go to my website, www.dateme.tips, for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. Talking about your feelings can also improve your mental health. It helps prevent the build-up of negative emotions, which can lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues. Speak your heart to free your mind. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast. If you feel that this podcast has helped you, please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description. And point number 3 is social media interactions. So today we're speaking about the major sign that your ex is still struggling without you during no contact. And I would say one of the most major signs to look out for is your ex-dumper interacting with you on social media. Now, as I said at the beginning of today's podcast, I do not suggest you check your ex's socials. It's not going to help you. However, if you leave your socials open, if you leave them public, then this means that even if you and your ex are no longer connected, you leave the door open for them to make contact with you. And this can be one of the major signs that they're struggling through no contact. If you post something and you get a like, maybe even a comment, a reaction from your ex-dumper, this is a sign that they're thinking about you. Now, you might think, well, it's not really much of a sign, it's a breadcrumb. Irrespective of how big the sign is, it's a sign that they're thinking about you, because why would they do it? Put yourself in their position. They've ended a relationship, they've decided to go down their own path. Would you, if you was their position, would you really start liking your posts? Would you start liking your dumpee's posts? Would you start viewing the stories of your ex? Why would you do that? If you don't want anything to do with someone, why would you do this? Now, of course, we can't guarantee that this definitely means that they want to reconnect, but it's a pretty good sign that they're struggling and they're thinking about you. If they're not thinking about you, why are they viewing your socials? Okay, they might view one story by accident. It can happen. But if you repetitively have your stories viewed by your ex, then it's no accident. Why would they be viewing them? If you want nothing to do with someone, you don't view their stories. You certainly don't like their posts. You certainly don't react or comment. You don't do this. Well, they're only likely to be doing it because you're on their mind, and even if it's just subconsciously, they might not be planning on doing this per se, but they just can't help themselves. They see you've uploaded something new, they have to react, they have to watch it, they have to view it. Maybe they're no longer following you, maybe they're no longer friends, but they will still look out for a way to check your stuff out. If they weren't thinking about you, if they were really quote-unquote done, would they really do this? I don't think I would, I don't think you would, and I don't think they would. And if they are doing it, that is a major sign that they're struggling through no contact. They're missing you. That's why they're checking out your stuff. That's why they're checking out your uploads, your videos, your photos, your statuses, your posts. That is why they're doing it. They're thinking about you, they're missing you, they want to see what's going on in your life. And that's why it's so important you promote yourself in an authentic but positive way. I'm not saying lie. I'm not saying tell things which are untrue. But what I am saying is make sure you promote yourself in a positive way. Post photos where you look great. Don't alter them, don't Photoshop them. I'm not saying that kind of thing with filters and whatnot. I'm just saying make sure it's authentic, but you look great, you look your best. And if you don't feel your best right now, go through a healthy life revolution. Exercise, eat better, sleep more. And then when you are genuinely looking better, maybe improve your style somewhat and have some new pics. Put them online and see what happens. Everything you put online needs to be real, authentic, but positive. And if your ex checks them out, then in my opinion, that is a major sign that they're struggling without you during no contact.